Well, this is the day that God has made, and truly we rejoice, 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 and are glad in it. We thank God for God's mighty hand, God's loving kindness, and God's tender mercy. We thank God for another opportunity to gather together once again. And this is Reverend LaDonna Sanders and Kosi greeting you live from the Globalcast studio. And I'm so honored and blessed to be here with author Camelle Daley. Camille, welcome to Globalcast. You want to greet the people today?
LaDonna, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here on this Globalcast. This is stunning. Just excited to be here to have this conversation with you. Greetings, everyone.
Yes. So if you're just joining us, why don't you just chime in and let us know where you're checking in live from, what nation you're from, what location, what's up, how are you doing? And it's the global check-in. So wherever you're hearing this, go ahead and comment and share. And also, why don't you share this? Share this with someone, because today our conversation is historic and historic. All right. So we're going to be talking today with author Camelle Daley about the power of publishing. And you all know I'm a preacher, so if we were together, I would say somebody say the power of publishing.
Yes.
Yes. So yes. Wow. So Camelle Daley is in the building, and many of you who have been following us at the Gathering Chicago and the Gathering Global know that we've been tracking with Camelle. She's joined us and come on board for our Healing Racism journaling experience, which is amazing. And we are doing these every month, coming up very soon, Saturday, February 20th. And if you're hearing this after that, go to thegatheringchicago.org and find your place there. But listen, Camille, well, let me say this. One of the things how we got to know you, Camille, is through your amazing book, Finding Divine Flow. And it's just been life-changing for many of us. We now have a book club, a book discussion once a month with Finding Divine Flow. So wow, Camille, there's so many things that we could talk about, but today we're talking about the power of publishing. And so I want to just start off, Camille, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of a little bit about your background and what brings you to this Globalcast discussion on the power of publishing.
Absolutely. Again, LaDonna, thank you so much for having me here on the Globalcast. So I'm Camelle Daley, and I've always loved fashion. And so I started a fashion label and have just been really enjoying that. And I've been doing it for years and really love it and just really flow with God. And I love bringing God into my business and what I'm doing and having business meetings with God and just really bringing him in, so that what I do, what I hear on a Sunday, I try to apply on a Monday. And for my whole business journey, I started my fashion label, the House of LaDonna, which is a women's clergy brand. And the whole time I had been running House of LaDonna, I've read lots of business books, listened to lots of audiobooks on business, but always wanted the word of God as well, because there'd be times I'd be listening to, maybe a secular business book and it sounds great, but I'm like, this sounds like Matthew 6:33, but he didn't say the scripture. And so I've always wanted this book that just marries my walk with God and business. And so then I decided to write that book. So just really writing about my entrepreneurial journey of flowing, finding, seeking God in purpose and finding that. And so the story is just littered with just stories and conversations and different business principles, all based around business and fashion. And so I've wanted to write a book for years, and I've written chapter one many times, and I get to the end of chapter one and I'm like, I don't know what else to say. And so then that's the end of it. But I remember being at this crossroad where the fashion labels, doing well, but I really was feeling this draw into kind of coaching and business training and helping other people, because people kept on asking me questions. And so I was at this crossroad where I could have gone to an event to show my clergy wear and do my fashion. But actually, I decided to go to a training event with the business bishop. And it was at that event that suddenly I just had this download of all the different chapters, and this is what chapter 2 is, and this is who your people are. And so the book just came, and I just went into this time of writing. It was about 3 weeks, and it's like I went into a cloud. That's the only way I can describe it. And I was just writing and writing and writing. And I came out and I was so excited. And I said to the business bishop, after your event, I wrote this book and it's 20,000 words. He said, well done. Go and write 35,000. I was like, huh?
Whoa.
But I did manage to go back and keep writing. So that's kind of, an overview of the business and how the book came about. It's really was drawn from my experience in business.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. And even as you talk, Camille, I just think about all the people that we know, and I could say even myself included, I could say this in the past tense, who want to write a book, who have journals and journals of books. Maybe they were like me looking for publishers. And so I just think finding divine flow and just your transparency in your journey has been a real help to unlock and demystify what it means to publish, to bring forth those things that God has put in you.
Absolutely. And I mean, the book Finding Divine Flow, there's so much of it that came out of my journal. I'm a huge journaler. I love journaling. And you mentioned the Healing Racism journaling experience. And I just love learning journaling, doing journaling, teaching journaling. And over the years, I would just, something would come to my mind, or I would do something in business and it would work really well, or I'd have a meeting with God that was just phenomenal. And I'm like, one day I'm going to write this in my book. And so I'd have this place in my journal that I kept for one day this is going to go in the book. One day this is going to go in the book. So when I came to write the book, it wasn't a blank slate. It was, let me now draw all of these things that I've been collecting over the years and now start to compile it. So there are many people that have half of their book in their journal or on a computer somewhere, or, just tucked away. But I really believe that this is a time, I think, especially with all that's been going on around the world and lockdown and so many different issues, it's a time where so many people are now dusting off that old manuscript and looking on the computer to find out, let me go and check at that document again and see if I can start to pull this book together. So it's a real crucial time, I believe, of writing and publishing and getting our words out to the world, because it can help so many people.
Awesome. So I want to go back a little bit to go forward with what we're talking about. And first of all, I want to acknowledge where you're checking in live from, because you talked about what's happening around the world. I'm checking in from Chicago here in the USA. What about you, Camille? Where are you checking in from?
I'm checking in from the city of Milton Keynes, which is in the United Kingdom, and we're about an hour north of London.
Yes. So when you say what's happening around the world, literally we know people are checking in from around the world to this Globalcast. And I want to go all the way back, and then I'll come up to how I met you. But I want to just say this, because we're talking about the power of publishing today. And it's just such an honor to have you here with us, because you not only publish your book, but you're publishing many people's books, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm thinking about people like Ida B. Wells Barnett and others. It is Black History Month as we're recording this in February. If you're listening in the United States, I think in the United Kingdom it's in August. Is that correct? So we definitely, yeah. And so Ida B. Wells, it struck me as we were looking at her a couple weeks ago, and it was said that she was one of the first women to own a newspaper in the United States. And we learned so much about her. She's the person that I always learned she was a journalist. In fact, I never knew that she founded a newspaper, and really she ended up owning two newspapers. And she used those newspapers to uncover what was going on in the United States around lynching. She put that in the newspaper and people had to deal with it. And it was when I was reading that, I was like, wow, there is such a power. They used to say in the pen, but the power to publish or not publish. And Camille, you not only have published your books, but you actually have a publishing company, Divine Flow Publishing. You actually have published a magazine, Ordained Magazine. And so I want to talk about that and just how did you get to that? Because I have to tell you directly, like for me, I have wanted to write books since the 4th grade. And for me, I was always told, well, you got to find a publisher. And in fact, a few years ago, many of us went to these publisher conferences and all of this. And then all of a sudden I meet you and you're like publishing books left and right for people. So can you kind of tell us, how did you come to this? How did you come to this assignment of Divine Flow Publishing? And can you just talk a little bit about the power of publishing?
Sure. Well, like I already shared the story about my book, but even on the back of doing my book, I still doing the fashion label, and I had I would always speak to clients in my fashion label who were about to be ordained. And so they needed a clergy dress or they needed a shirt. And so, I would send them a little card to say, congratulations on your ordination, but it never felt like enough. And so I just thought, let me put together a little book, just a little booklet, just so that when they do, I can just send them the nice little branded booklet, House of LaDonna, and this is what we do. And this is a few words of encouragement for you. So I went to my client base in my clergy brand and said, what do you wish you knew when you was getting ordained? And all of these beautiful words and encouragement was coming in. And I started to put this booklet together and woke up one morning and just really felt in my spirit, this isn't a booklet, this is a magazine. And so there the Ordained magazine was born. And we have been releasing magazines now every quarter. We're on our 6th issue. And the women from all over the world just constantly are just pouring in their articles, and we put it together and publish. And many of these women have said, I used to write when I was younger, but I haven't written for years. I dusted off my pen, and now I'm an internationally published writer because of Ordained magazine. And so many of those writers from Ordained magazine are now saying, actually, I want to write a book, or I have written a book. Could you publish me? And I remember feeling a few months ago, just this shift, this transition, still doing the fashion, but a transition into the publishing world, which is never something that I really had on my radar. I feel like it's something that found me, and I'm just moving and flowing. So we've got Ordained magazine. I've got my book, Finding Divine Flow. I've also published a planner that goes with the book. And then, just one person after the other, they're coming. They're like, okay, I want to publish a book. I want to publish an anthology with my group. I want to do a book over here, books of poetry, books of, there's a couple that we're working with who are doing a book about forgiveness, just so many different elements and areas, but all beautifully connected as well to the kind of ethos of Divine Flow Publishing. So we're just having a great time learning about this publishing world and just really growing and just really just feeling that need to publish the voices, to publish these words and these messages. And everything that we're publishing is just so needed right now in this season. So we are just riding this publishing wave that we're in, because there is power in the pen and power in publishing.
Yes. Thank you. Camille, how did you say yes to this assignment of publishing? How did you know that was what you were supposed to do? And how did you say yes? Because, people could have the idea, they could even have the vision, but to literally, here in the Globalcast studio, I have stacks and stacks of books from Divine Flow Publishing, including your most recent Divine Flow Planner. It's just time management on clergy women, children's books, Ordained magazine. One thing about moving with you, Camille, and we met, I think we met in 2020. I just feel like, wow, all this things going on. We met, and I actually met you through one of your webinars. You had the Dream Reset that you did. The Dream Reset that you did right when the global pandemic began. I believe it was in March or at the end of March. Amazing webinar. And I just want to know, how did you say yes to it? Because so many have visions, so many have ideas. How did you say yes? And how did you hear that that's what you are supposed to be doing?
So, Rev LaDonna, I was happy at my fashion label, doing my fashion thing and just loving my life. And I remember sitting at my desk, and it was just this intense feeling. I was at my desk and I just felt like I suddenly shifted, and I was at the helm of a publishing empire. I had written one book, I had like 2 magazines, but I just had this overwhelming feeling. And I was just like, God, what is this? And I just feel like I've just been holding his hand and just walking with him on this road, and he's just opening the doors, just one after the other, one after the other. I'm going and learning from people and just asking questions, different people who have been in publishing for a long time, and they're really just saying, you're doing it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but you're doing it. Just keep doing what you're doing. And these big publishers are saying to me, the little publisher, we're huge organizations, whereas you're right down with the people. So you smaller publishers are able to do things and make moves that we can't do over here, because we're so big, it takes us so long to make these changes. But you're right there on the ground, you're having the conversations. And so even with Ordained magazine, again, I feel like I'm a child in the middle of this jigsaw puzzle, and I'm slowly seeing how the pieces are connecting when God knew the pieces would connect all along. And so I would be doing once a month, every first Monday and every third Monday, we meet with our client base. We kind of have a community, and we call it the Monday Ministry Meetup. And we'll have different conversations and just share and talk and pray. And I'm finding that community, bringing those together, again, it's just a brilliant platform for the publishing. And for many years, I've wanted to preach and I've wanted to do different things. And God just kept saying, platforms, platforms, platforms. And now look where we are, on platforms, or global platforms all over the world, and our books on global platforms all over the world, sharing message, preaching through publishing all over the globe. So that's how I received it. And I just keep saying yes. And even the times when I want to give up, or it gets hard, or I don't understand, or there's a fight and I want to quit, I'm like, well, I didn't choose this. God chose this for me. This chose me. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep fighting, because this is what I believe that he's called me to do in this season.
Wow. Thank you for that. Listen, I want to ask you 2 questions. One, what is your prayer practice? You're talking about you're sitting at your desk and God is telling you, suddenly, I'm the head of a publishing, what did you say? A publishing empire, which you are. I'm like, so there's under that, people could miss it if you didn't say, there's clearly a prayer practice. There's clearly a relationship with God. Can you speak to that? What is your prayer practice, your disciplines, your relationship? How does that factor in?
Sure. So there are some things that I do regularly. So, you know, in my mornings having my time of prayer and devotion. But for me in my life with God, it's really, as the book cover says, about flow. And so I really try to, there's a song that says, "Let every breath and all that I am never cease to worship you." And I love
Mm.
and I really try to just bring God into everything, you know, in all your ways, acknowledge him. So just in everything, I really just try to bring him in and have conversations and just learn to hear his voice in all the different ways he speaks. So whether it's a feeling like it was that day, just I'm at the helm of a publishing empire. Where did that come from? You know, so whether it's a feeling, whether it's a thought, whether it's an idea, whether it's a recurring pattern, I really just try to be sensitive. So when I ask him a question in the morning, I'm looking for the answer all day long.
Wow. Yes. So you're in conversation throughout the day, bringing it before God. Yes. And I ask you that because I get that from you. And I'll just give one testimony about finding divine flow. Camille Daley, you have a podcast. I think that's great for people to
Mm-hmm.
check out. And you really break the things in the book down in the podcast with your interviews. So I'm reading the book, I'm listening to the podcast, and I'm just, I'm like, wow, this is great. I can apply this to my life. I can think about the things that God has given me and how it's going to break out through reading this book. And all of a sudden one day I'm like, wow, this book, Finding Divine Flow, like that's real. That's exactly what you were saying. You're helping people find their flow with God. Um, so yeah. So my other question, since we're talking about the power of publishing today, is what advice or what word do you have for the person or the people who really feel called? I've got to write this book. I've got to get this series out. Um, but they're not. What advice do you have for them?
I would really think about the people who need your words. Because I remember when I was coming to the end of writing my book and the war started in my mind, just, you don't need to finish this. And I have a line in the book that says, pay attention to the doubts because it's the enemy panicking about the giant leap of faith that you're about to take. And I was about to take a leap of faith because I was about to not just finish writing my book, but publish my book. And I just really had to address a lot of the fear and the doubts. And one of the things was, well, you've written the book now. You don't have to publish it. You know, you've done the task, you've written it. But
Wow.
I had to counteract that and say, no, no, no. I know my story. I don't need this. I know my story. Someone else needs this. Someone else who's hasn't got to where I am, someone else who's going through, someone else who doesn't know if it's possible needs to hear my words. So they were who were pushing me. And so I would advise anyone, just think about who this is for, who needs your words when you're doing things and people keep saying, you should put that in a book. It's because there's a need for it and someone needs it. So that would be my great encouragement. Think about the people who need this. It's not just about you. It's not for you. It's for someone who needs the message and the testimony that's in your story.
Wow. That is a word. That is a word. And that is how in the scriptures, there are countless references to the word right. And God is downloading his word through people. That's a great word, Camille. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, we're nearing the end of our time together for this particular episode. And I'm wondering, Camille, can you come back and we can continue this conversation about the power of publishing? Because I think there's just so many things that can be shared here.
Absolutely. I feel like we've just scratched the surface. So
Yes, yes. Well, let me ask this, and then we'll give you the last word. Certainly, how can people get in touch with you? And maybe we can break that down because I heard you say earlier You have Ministry Mondays. Can you just talk about that real quick, how people can connect in there? And then if we can get into how they can connect with you otherwise as well.
Sure. So you can find some more information on Ministry Mondays and what we do over at House of Ilona on houseofilona.com. And for the all the events and different things going on, the best place is findingdivineflow.com. That's where you can find a lot of the different events and things that I have going on all year round.
So now, what if somebody wants to talk to you, Camelle, about writing for Ordained Magazine, perhaps because every month or every once in a while you have topics that you invite articles? Or what if they're like, hey, I really want to write a book. How do I do that? Through Finding Divine Flow Publishing. Can you let us know how we can be in touch?
Sure. So our House of Ilona Facebook page is on Facebook, and we are House of Ilona Clergy, and that's where we meet every first Monday and every third Monday. And if anyone's interested in publishing, the company is divineflowpublishing.com.
Divineflowpublishing.com. And I can give a testimony. I'm going to tell you one thing about you, Camelle, that God revealed to me one day is all this time I've been looking for a publisher that fits what God has called me to do, where I can write about exactly what God has said. And that has been a journey because you can't always find that. Like it's always something you have to change. And one of the things I remember when we were meeting, and we really were meeting about something else. We were meeting about a business activation webinar and talking about your book and how you assist creatives in living their dreams. And you talked about divine publishing. And one day in my morning prayers, it was God was saying, I brought the publisher to you. Like you did not have to look for publisher. The publisher came to you. So I just want to, I don't know if I ever told you that, Camelle, but and it has just been a joy to work with you. You know, we're just getting started, but Finding Divine Flow Publishing, wow. So thank you for just saying yes to God, you and your team. Just a big thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on the Globalcast. It's been excellent.
Of course. So listen, we're going to have Camelle back. So I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions for our second show on the power of publishing. If you're anything you want us to talk about, you can reach out to us at connect@thegatheringchicago.org or just go right to our website, thegatheringchicago.org, and reach out to us with your questions. Well, we have a few announcements, and then we will have some last words together. So if you are joining us out there in the live world, just let us know, how was this for you? What takeaway do you have? Go ahead and add in the comments. So let's go to our announcements. First, Camelle, we're doing as I said, we have Healing Racism Journaling Experience coming up. Camelle, you want to talk about why that's important to you?
Oh, so incredible. Such an amazing experience. We go through journaling and how to journal and why to journal and tips and activations. And then Rev, you take us through some poetry and you just take us to places that I think only poetry and things like that can take us. But then you bring us all the way back through to healing, and all the way through we're journaling and we're processing the process, processing what we're going through. And especially in this time, this work is so needed. Your work on healing racism and just to kind of sandwich it in with the journaling, it has been such a beautiful combination. So it's just an incredible experience that I highly recommend for everyone to attend at least one time or keep coming.
Yes, thank you, Camille. It's been such a joy to do this with you. And many people have asked, we do share. In fact, I'll be sharing some original poems there as a part of the journaling experience, a part of the retreat, and then Camille with her expertise in journaling just takes us through that. So definitely go to the website. You can go to thegatheringchicago.org and click to sign up. We're offering these almost every month, but we would love for you to fill the most recent one. So share that invite with someone. And Camille, did you have any announcements?
Just to let people know that my book, Finding Divine Flow, is available on Amazon. It's also available on Audible. Our ordained magazines are available on houseofilona.com. And like I said, for any events and things that we got going on, it's findingdivineflow.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So definitely connect with Camille on all of her social media channels. You'll be glad that you did. And then we have a couple announcements. We are in the middle of 28 days of poetry with Rev L. Yes, indeed. So check out, and every day we'll be on with original poems on our Facebook, on our Instagram. And so look out for that. And drum roll, please. We're going to be, can we have a drum roll? We're going to be debuting our next poetry collection. Woo! Coming out, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, the poem book. So many of the poems that you've been hearing in these 28 days, from Remembering South Africa to Remembering Who We Are. And we have some other new poems that you've never seen or heard there. Unless you come to the journaling experience, then you will hear that. But it will all be in this wonderful collection, which will be coming to you soon. So look out for that. Again, please connect with us at thegatheringchicago.org, on our website, on Facebook and Instagram, and share this Globalcast. Wow, Camille, it's been so good to be with you. I'm gonna, if there's anything else that you have, and then we're going to wrap up.
That was all. Just thank you so much for having me. Bless you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this is Reverend LaDonna Sanders and Kosi coming to you from the Globalcast studio right here in the Gathering Chicago Prayer Tower. It has been a joy, my indeed joy, to be here with author and founder Camelle Daley. We'll be back again. So we'll look forward to see you. God bless you. And whatever barriers are blocking you from doing exactly what God has called you to do, we declare and decree that they be removed now. In Jesus' name, amen. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.